Hey everybody, this is the Platinum Knight here with another Double First Impressions video. And today's Double First Impressions is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and the Dead Space remake. Starting off with Tears of the Kingdom, this is a game that I always was set to play someday ever since it was announced. It's no secret that I'm a huge Zelda fan. Ever since I beat Breath of the Wild, though, I did enjoy the game overall, but I also got this sense of disappointment of not feeling like a traditional Zelda game. I understand Nintendo not wanting to do the same thing over and over again, which is why I am not deducting Breath of the Wild for what it is. But once Nintendo announced a sequel, the ultimate question popped in my head: will Tears of the Kingdom be better than its predecessor? Originally, Tears of the Kingdom was supposed to be an expansion for Breath of the Wild, aka the third DLC pack, but then the developers made too much of an expansion to where Nintendo decided, okay, let's just make a full game out of this expansion pack and have it be a sequel instead. I didn't buy Tears of the Kingdom on release day as I felt the $70 price tag wasn't worth it, or at least not a great start for Nintendo to follow the game price increase, seeing how it reuses the same world as Breath of the Wild. So I got After Us that month instead. A couple months later, one day I saw that it was on sale for $60 on Amazon, and that's when I made my purchase. Now that I played and beaten the game myself, what are my thoughts? I loved it. Tears of the Kingdom is amazing. Going back to my question that I asked before, is Tears of the Kingdom better than Breath of the Wild? And the answer is yes. Way better than its predecessor. The story is better, the characters are better, the enemies, bosses, weapons, equipment is better, the shrines are better, those temples are better than the divine beasts. Everything is just so much better. While some of the problems I had in Breath of the Wild is still present in this game, the developers added so much more to where it really doesn't make me think about it, or at least not as much. Going over to what they added, I like how you can fuse two weapons or materials to create one improved weapon. I like how you can put anything on the tip of your arrows for your bows to create different elemental effects. It's cool how you can even fuse stuff with your shield. My favorite is the rocket shield. While in Breath of the Wild, I really didn't see the use for shields as I barely use them, and I didn't really see the point in upgrading to carry more shields. Here, once I found out how useful rocket shields are, I maxed out my shield slots. It was so much fun launching myself into the air and going in slow motion with a bow, and getting to hard to reach places. The biggest mechanic Nintendo added would have to be the zonai structures and being able to build stuff with them. From vehicles to weapons, I was honestly surprised seeing how creative some people are in building things that actually show how advanced this mechanic really is. So advanced that I bet Nintendo themselves didn't even think people would make. However, even with that being said, I admit for me personally, yes, I did have fun building some stuff at first, but over time I found myself becoming pretty tiresome and would only build to the bare minimum with the least effort to just help me out with a very specific specific task. Also, Nintendo, I don't think having 8 favorites to store people's creations is really enough. Previously mentioning the game uses the same world as Breath of the Wild, the developers did add some new environments. The biggest additions would have to be the lands in the sky and the underworld, aka the depths. The rest is just a bunch of caves, tunnels, and some changes that weren't there in the previous game. I guess the only criticism I have is the waypoint system. Like its predecessor, I'm not asking the game to hold my hand. I just want the waypoint system to work just like any other open world game. And I do admit, everybody, I had to look a bunch of stuff up online because I didn't know where to go, what to do, or what certain things meant. Call me ignorant, but this game is supposed to be rated E10, and there is no way that a 10-year-old kid is gonna figure some of this stuff out. Maybe if I had a little bit more free time on my hands, I could figure some of this stuff out by myself, and I have figured a couple of things out by myself, but as a busy person who has to work at his own pace, I just couldn't do it anymore, man. But again, I ain't knocking any points though. Oh, and do I think this game is worth $70? And in my opinion is no. As much as I do love this game, and I'm glad I waited to get it on sale, to me it feels more like a really big fancy expansion to Breath of the Wild than a full game. Going back to the positives, without getting into spoilers, the next thing I'm gonna talk about is the story and characters. What I found really interesting in a Zelda game is seeing almost everybody in Hyrule actually recognizing Link. While Link doesn't even know he's Link in most Zelda games, it's cool how most people know he is the hero of the wild. I also like what Nintendo did with Princess Zelda. Again, I can't spoil it, but that plot twist, oh, that twist was really, really something. I also like this version of Ganondorf. While I was wishing he was a little more present instead of just doppelgangers, I'd say he puts on a pretty great fight at the end. Oh, and of course, I like how Purah is young again. The soundtrack is outstanding. The part where you descend into Gloom's lair with the epic music would have to be the most chilling moment I've ever experienced in a game in a while. I am so happy I recorded it. Oh, and let me tell you, that ending, while I didn't get as emotional compared to some people, but I did get that sad feeling in my throat. That ending was so romantic. The producer of Tears of the Kingdom already confirmed there will be no DLC or a sequel, and while I'm okay with not getting any more DLC, how this game is big enough, but I would at least like one more sequel to have a complete trilogy. I feel the building mechanic and fusing weapons and all of the other stuff they added into the game could still be expanded upon. I would really like to see a Zelda 3 and have it take place outside out of Hyrule and explore a new open world map. But unfortunately, that doesn't seem like that's gonna happen. And that's okay. Whatever Nintendo decides to do with the next Legend of Zelda, I'll do my best to show my support. Real quick, let's take a look at the Dead Space remake. Back in 2008, I really couldn't get into the original Dead Space. There was nothing really wrong with the game. It was certainly revolutionary for its time when it came out, especially when it came to the survival horror genre, but for some reason, I still didn't like it. Maybe it's because I'm used to being on Earth instead of the space setting, or maybe it's because I'm just too much of a Resident Evil fan. I don't know, it's hard to put my finger on it. After the poorly received That Is Dead Space 3, it seemed like the franchise was dead in space, until 10 years later, the first installment gets a remake. My uncle is a huge fan of Dead Space 1 and 2, so of course he ends up getting it, and I asked him if I could borrow it, and thankfully he obliged. This means I was able to play it for free. And what are my thoughts? People, it's awesome. One of the best video game remakes. The developers made it clear nothing was cut out from the original and actually added more to the game and used this opportunity to do all kinds of things that they weren't able to do back in 2008. You know, like a remake should be. Capcom, I'm looking at you. Some fans could debate which one is better, but personally, I was never a fan of the original, so this remake is perfect for me. I still wouldn't say that I'm the biggest fan of the Dead Space series, but I really enjoyed this remake, and I'd be open to a Dead Space 2 remake. If you've never played Dead Space before, then I highly recommend this as it is the best way to experience it. Alright everybody, that's it for this double first impressions video. That's it for my first impressions on The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and the Dead Space remake. If you enjoyed this video, then please be sure to give me a like and subscribe, hit that notification bell for new videos, and peace out everybody.